I see a good guy that I like, he's always AS. The one asking me out now, who is AA, I don't like him. The one that is AA that I like doesn't like me in return. We all agree that as adults, it is necessary for us to activate our entire senses when we are in love, especially in knowing our partner's genotype earlier on in the relationship. They say love is blind, but genotype opens the eyes, and it's a clear testament of the story we'll be dissecting today. As usual, my name is Bright, and I am very chuffed to be on this couch again with Nurse Ago Chidera Joy.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, it's glad to have you back because you did so well the first time. Glad to have you back. And how has Abuja been treating you?
Well, the sun is damning. And the heat is on the rooftop. It's much.
Well, as a way of introduction, Nurse Chidera Joy, she is a nursing practitioner with 7 years cognate experience. And when we say she's a professional in the real sense. Nurse Joy,
Yes,
love is blind, but genotype opens the eyes.
Sure, it does.
Well, we'll just quickly go into our story for today, and we'll take it from there. Okay, let me just go into the story. We are not talking enough how the issue of genotype affects women more in the search of love. Let me tell you a story. I'm 29 years of old. While I was in school, the genotype test I did then declared me AA, and I didn't bother checking again as my siblings were also AA. It was when my immediate elder sister was pregnant. During all those tests, it was discovered that she was AS. I quickly went to the hospital to check mine again, and I saw AS. I went to another hospital and it was still AS. I was expecting a miracle of AA as the love of my life was also AS. When we met and things started getting serious, he asked me my genotype and I said AA, as in spec level. When all results finally declared me AS, that was how I left that relationship. I met another great guy. This time, I am the one asking for genotype. He said he is AA. We started a relationship and everything was moving toward the direction of marriage. Then we were asked to go for a test in church. That was how his result came out to be AS. What is all this? I even said I was going to go ahead regardless, and then my big sister shared a video with me of a girl begging AS not to marry AS, that the pain of having SS is too much. In that video, the girl speaking is an SS, and she was sharing how she is in and out of hospital always. After watching that video, I terminated the idea of going ahead. I also ended that relationship. Now, he messaged me 2 months ago that he did another test and it came out AA. He even showed me the results. I said, okay, let's go and confirm in another hospital. The results came out and he is AS. The challenge now is that when I see a good guy that I like, he's always AS. The one asking me out now, who is AA, I don't like him. The one that is AA that I like doesn't like me in return. These things just keep going on, and now I am 29, approaching 30. Me that says I'll get married at 25, now that someone didn't come, but genotype stop us. Not that someone didn't come, but genotype stop us. Now he's married and I am still here. It is much easier for men who are AS to find love.
Actually, it's a world of men, no matter how we want to drag with them.
Yeah.
Yes, what I mean is a world of men is because as a woman, you are not going to often do the proposing. Yes, we are evolving that in the world of today, women see a man they like and they profess love.
Yeah.
But there is an extent that you can take it. And there
So that you're not considered wayward.
Not wayward, but desperate.
Oh, yes, that's
You understand? Men can easily, shrew back when they sense desperation. Because men are not meant to be the committed or committing type. So they weigh all their options before commitment. So when you are too forward, it tends to, be a red alert for them. So because of that, a man who is AS is more likely to find love because he's the one doing the proposing. If it doesn't work here, he's a pick and choose thing. He
Right.
it doesn't work. He move on to the next person, whereby you are stuck waiting for someone to come for you.
Okay.
So you are the one being chosen,
Yeah.
and he's the one doing the choosing. So
You know, this story that we shared today, I personally have an experience. Yes, I once dated somebody that is AS and I am AS, and once we got to know, we just like, became brothers and sisters. So it's really, like the lady in the story said, it's really tough
yes, it
for the women, but for the men, they do the finding, they do the picking, they do the selection, and they eventually commit to whoever meets their criteria.
Exactly.
Now, going on, this genotype, blood groups, the blood groups we have, and why it is so important to consider genotype before committing in a relationship.
Well, we have various blood group. We have AA, we have AS, we have AC, we have SS, and we have SC.
Okay.
We also have AB.
Yeah.
You understand? We also have blood group O, positive and negative. So we have blood group AB. AB
No.
positive and negative.
No.
In all this, there
Okay.
is positive and negative.
Yeah.
So those are the typing. The grouping is the A's and the S. You understand? So the negative and the positive are the typing.
No. Why can't AS and AS marry?
Well, genetically, the blood is made up of many molecules. One of the most important molecules of the blood is the hemoglobin molecule, which is the oxygen carrier. The sickle cell, when you say someone is sickle celled or is suffering from sickle cell disease, that means the hemoglobin molecule of the blood in this person is sickled. The word sickle cell is derived from the description of the sickle that you use to plow, harvest grains.
Yeah.
It's crescent.
Yeah.
You understand? The normal hemoglobin molecule is supposed to be circular. You understand? Round and a kind of depressed on inside to trap enough oxygen and convey it to where it's needed. But when your hemoglobin molecule is sickled, it tends to not contain adequate oxygen that is supposed to supply to the needed parts of the body. And it also tends to glue together, as in the molecules, they tend to glue together.
Okay.
And that is where the problem lies. So that is when you are describing what sickle cell disease is. So now AS and AS, they have this genetic trait. They are carriers of this sickle cell hemoglobin deformation.
Okay.
You understand? But because they have one A, which is the normal hemoglobin molecule, it makes them to is a dilution. So they don't come down with manifestation of the sickle cell diseases. So they are called healthy carriers.
Oh.
You understand?
Okay.
They are called healthy carriers. Now, when an AS and AS gets married, they are exposing their offspring to the chances of coming down with sickle cell disease, because it is a game of Russian roulette. Some people will tell you that when an AS marries an AS, their first child will be AA, their second child will be AA, the third one will be AS, the fourth one will be AS. It's when they give birth more than 4 that they can now give birth to SS. That's not true. Medically, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
Yes, they will tell you that the percentage is low, but what is the guarantee that you fall within that percentage that is presumably low? There is no guarantee that you're going to fall within the percentage that's presumably low. So the best bet is for you to avoid that probability.
Yeah.
Don't expose your child, your future offspring, to the possible pain. If anyone is in doubt, the person needs to go to the internet, because the internet has made things a lot easier. I would have said go to the hospital,
Yeah.
so that you have a life on hand experience of what persons living with sickle cell disease is experiencing.
No, now what are the symptoms? What are those things that these people living with sickle cell disease, what do they go through?
My dear, what they go through is enormous. The first thing that they go through is extreme pain. They tend to cringe in the joints.
The joints.
Cold tend to have very heavy impact on them when they are exposed to cold weather. When they are dehydrated, it affects them. When they are exposed to malaria or other infections, you understand? Because when you are sickle celled, you are often exposed to anemia.
Yeah.
You understand? As much as the hemoglobin is sickled, when there is anemia, there is also a deficiency in the immunoglobulins, that is the white blood cells. So when the white blood cell is also deficient and there is an invading infection, what is the illustration is when you have an army, a tattered army that is not organized, that is low in number, and you have an invading enemy's army that's well prepared. What happens? The invading enemy's army is going to overrun the army that they are invading. So the infections that's coming in is well prepared. They have probability of mutation and all that. And they come in, they meet a tattered white blood cell, which is the soldiers of the body. They are going to overrun it, and the person is going to come down because of this anemia that they are often exposed to. So they suffer pain. They are exposed to coming down once an infection hits. Hydration, hits them hard. And they also suffer organ damage.
Wow.
Yes, they suffer organ damage because all parts of our body, thrives on oxygen supply. So when there is low oxygen supply to certain parts of the body where they are needed, they tend to be, you can call it a hypertrophy. You understand? Whereby they die off. You understand? So
all right. So you mentioned their white blood cells being so overworked and not like you use the illustration of tattered army. So does it mean that there is nothing they can take to boost the white blood cells in their system?
It's not the white blood cell. What they can take to boost both their hemoglobin and in general the blood, quantity of blood in the system and the healthy hemoglobin. Yes, there is. They can be taking. There are so many treatments, that people that have a sickle cell or are carriers can do to prevent coming down with manifesting symptoms often. Something like taking iron-rich foods. You understand? Something like taking blood tonics, eating vegetables. Being careful not to expose yourself to, germs and infection. Malaria in this part of the world is often, a strong factor. Now,
it's true.
Salmonella typhi is also, you understand? So, one of the treatments in case of being afraid of infection, you call it a pneumococcal vaccination. You understand? Whereby they are vaccinated against possible certain infections, so that this infection do not take them by surprise. So when you vaccinate them, their body already has this barrier against those particular infections. So
all right, you mentioned Salmonella typhi. And there's this Lancet report of 2021 that I looked up, and the report says that out of 100,000 sickle cell babies, only just 5 live up to the age of 4-5. Out of a very 100,000, and they quoted Salmonella being one of the leading causes of the mortality in these children. And you also mentioned that there are vaccinations that they can get. Does it mean that those vaccinations they are not enough in Nigeria?
The thing is that there is still very low sensitization about sickle cell disease in
Okay.
Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned, as far as statistics is concerned. The sensitization is still very low. Because if the sensitization is high as it should be, you and I will not be here still talking about it. You understand? Every adult should go and check their genotype, not even one. You should have second, third, fourth opinion. Because Nigeria, we are importing country, so we can in the process of importation, the reagents we are importing might actually expire while they are still on the way, and we may not know, or some condition may expose them to damage. So when they are now used in the laboratory, they might not give the results that they are expected to give. So, but when you have second, third
Opinions.
it will give you a clearer picture of where you belong. So when this sensitization, like I'm talking about, is the way it should be, adults will be conscientious. Why I want to use the word conscientious is that, let's assume yourself to be in the shoe of this offspring who is going to come down with a lot of pain. I've had an experience where a child, or I will call it a child because it's a child to the mother, but a young man of 21 was in my ward, and when he came down on, by extreme pain, he called the mother and said, "Mommy, you're very wicked.
Wow.
Mommy, why did you give birth to me?" Yes, I am the attending nurse, but I was touched. I shed tear because I knew the pain that this young man is going through. And trying to manage his pain, you are exposing him to certain damage too, because you manage them with NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Sometimes the pain is so extreme that you do not have a choice, but you have them administered opioid analgesics like petidine, like pentazocine, and all that. But at the end of the day, their organs pay for it.
Wow.
Because when there is opioid analgesic administration, if not mindfully administered, you tend to have addiction.
Wow.
Setting in. And when they get discharged, they can source these drugs just to ameliorate the pains that they are feeling. So the disadvantage of not checking your genotype, of not being conscientious, is numerous to mention.
Wow.
It's quite numerous to mention.
Now, the sickle cell patients, do they live up to a certain age? Because some people will say when you get to 18 and you have sickle cell, then the person may die, or 21. Or because I know that, like the former president Muhammadu Buhari, there was an interview he said he did an interview on his 80th birthday party, and he mentioned that he has lost 2 children to sickle cell disease. And there's this very popular OAP in Lagos that we lost the other time. She was 37, Tosin Bokno. Yeah. So some persons, they feel that sickle cell people that have gone through crisis, they don't live past a certain age. Is that true?
Anyway, the sickle cell disease differs in certain people.
Okay.
There are some people who come down with crisis often, maybe because of the way they manage themselves. They are often exposing themselves to things, to factors that makes them come down with crisis. Some others also manage themselves so well that they don't come down with crisis as often. Maybe they are conscious of hydration, they are conscious of not exposing themselves to cold, not exposing themselves to mosquito bites and all that. They tend to not come down with crisis. But in terms of age range, for them to either live more or die, there is no specific age range. It differs from persons to person. It differs. Pain threshold also differs. Some people can endure pain more than the other. And most times, pain threshold is something that breaks them. You understand? So when we are talking about age, that when you live up to 18, you can live more, you can die more, it is not static.
Oh, it is not static. But aside from this treatment that you can use to manage people with the sickle cell disease, are there definite treatments that can last, treatment that can turn them from SS to AA?
The only treatment that is being foreseen, um, theorized to be a treatment is bone marrow transplant.
What does that involve?
It involves the harvesting of the bone marrow, which is where the pluripotent stem cells that produce the blood is often found in our long bones. They are harvested from, a donor that matches you, a matching donor, and transplanted to the sickle-celled patient's bone marrow. You understand? But this is an extreme treatment and is often explored in extreme, cases. And it's quite cost implicating.
Yes.
It's quite cost implicating.
That's true.
So instead of going through this rigors of trying to find solution, why don't we take the easy route of trying not to get married to persons that gives us the potentiality of having offsprings that are, sickle cell. You understand?
Wow.
So that is just it. And you see, when you have someone who is having SS and someone who is SC, they are both sickle cell carriers. But the one with SS tends to come down with more symptoms and all that, than because the C allele makes it less. You understand? So they both come down with crisis. Yes, but the best thing is just for us to avoid it, no matter love. And you find out that ignorance is a very big factor when we are discussing sickle cell disease. Some people will tell you, our mothers, our fathers, did they check their genotype? How many children? But we forget that there is something they used to call in Yoruba, they call it abiku.
Abiku, yes.
And in Igbo, they call it obanje. That obanje means it comes and goes. You understand? Abiku also means comes and goes. So I don't know what they call it in Hausa, but at least the two major language outside the third one, I can say abiku and obanje. You find out that was sickle cell. That was sickle cell.
Okay.
A child comes, you give birth, because what caused the other person's death is still there. You tend to, so the ones that stays are actually the one that was lucky not to come down with the genetic presentation of sickle cell. So it's better we don't do that. Let's just avoid it.
Okay.
And also, I'm sorry, we find out also religion.
Yes. I was actually coming to that, because there are a lot of times, some things that we read on social media, you see people give testimonies that, okay, they were SS and after prayers they became AA, or they went for something just after prayers, all those faith talk. And there are some persons that they are both AS, they gave birth and none of their children came down with that sickle cell, the allele. Yes. So what do you say to that? Is it that probably they first went to a diagnostic center that tested them and didn't use good reagents, or what do you say?
Like
about
I
that?
said, is a probability. It's a game of Russian roulette. If you're AS and your partner is AS, I don't think the risk is worth taking for you to see if you give birth to an offspring with SS. It's better avoided than tried. No matter how love is shaking you, if you do mistake jam rock and your child is SS, you know what it means to suffer. You know what it means to live in regret, because you cannot imagine the pain. It's unimaginable watching your child dying slowly, watching your child going through excruciating pain. So what kind of love are you trying to prove that you want to say you want to try, or you went to? Yes, in some spouses or couple, they get married and they are lucky enough, but what's the guarantee that you are going to fall under this category of lucky couple?
Then what about those people that say they were healed of SS?
Well, I am not so much of a religious person. I'm a practical person. You understand? Because if you want to be extremely religious, you must throw away your thinking cap for you to be extremely religious. So I am not so much of a religious person. What I believe is that practically you cannot be healed. You can only be among the minute lucky people that you give birth and your child happens not to come down, with the sickle cell allele. You understand? But aside that, well, people can believe whatever they choose to. Is a free world for people to believe. But I am still advising people, check your genotype. If you're AS, your partner is AS, please terminate such relationship. It is exposing children who are innocent, who do not have to, suffer the pains that they will eventually come down with. Please avoid it. Unless you check your pocket and it's very heavy.
Yeah, I was actually coming to that because there are some treatments, some technologies that they do prenatally, that you people do prenatally. Let me put it that way. Yeah. So when the AS mother, you're impregnated by your AS husband, they test for the amniotic fluid.
It's called amniocentesis.
Okay.
It's called amniocentesis. It's also used to check DNAs when the DNA is in doubt, know. So, but it's also an expensive procedure too. You understand? And it's also not comfortable for the mother and for the fetus too. It's not such a palatable procedure to do. Okay. But I am a pro-life. When you are pregnant and you are subjecting your fetus to such tests, which means you already have in mind that if the child is SS, that you are going to evacuate and try again. And how many are you going to evacuate actually? Right. You don't know. You understand? Yeah. But the only option is in vitro fertilization, whereby there could be pre-selection before implantation. You understand? That is an option. That's why I said when your pocket is heavy. I'm not talking about the amniocentesis.
Then that IVF, like, what is the range of costs? What is like the cost estimate of IVF, going through IVF? And
well, I'm not into IVF clinic, but I know that within the neighborhood of 5 million. You understand? Within the neighborhood of 5 million.
So if you're falling in love, please hold your money. If you're AS, you're falling in love with AS, the professional in studio asks you to hold your money. Now, you mentioned that AS people can also have those symptoms, those crises, those triggers, or that is when they are exposed to very severe conditions.
Actually, yes, I did.
Now, can you help AS? Can you talk to us? How do we also, like, okay, we know that as we are looking for love, we'll be looking for people that have AA. But now, how do we also live healthily so that we don't subject our bodies to wear and tear because we have that allele?
Okay, now, when you're talking about AS or AC, they are called healthy carriers.
Yes.
Under normal circumstance, they don't come down with a manifestation of sickle cell disease, as in the symptoms of sickle cell disease. Yeah. But, there are certain conditions of exertion whereby these persons can come down with this manifestation. Let's say dehydration, let's say anemia. Some women may have myoma, that's fibroid, and this causes them to lose a lot of blood monthly. So when they lose a lot of blood monthly, they become anemic, and they can present with symptoms of sickle cell disease. So in this case, if you know your AS and you're having heavy menstrual cycle, what you do is take food that are rich in iron, hydrate properly, try not to expose yourself to extreme condition of exertion, so that you don't come down with manifestation of the sickle cell disease. You understand? They will feel pain, but their pains or their manifestation cannot be as extreme as people who are SS. Nonetheless, they need to take care of themselves and hydrate properly. Actually, everybody needs to hydrate properly because hydration actually helps. The effect of hydration is that the adhesion of the sickled, hemoglobin molecules is reduced. You understand? When you hydrate properly.
Yeah.
You understand? And I don't know, by and large, just take care of yourself.
And it will interest you to know that there are a lot of people, a lot of modern, a lot of civilized people that actually have great and good and huge belief in traditional birth attendants. And you know, when they go to these traditional birth attendants, they don't actually like go through the process of genotype testing or all those things. And when the child is born, it's subjected to also other superstitions. So, and I know that some of them, they are watching. Some of them that actually would want to like. Nobody's saying that you should not patronize traditional birth attendants, but there are certain things that they should know, especially if they are AS people.
Okay. When you are going to patronize a traditional birth attendant, I believe you should weigh your risk, the risks you're taking. Maybe go for your ultrasound, know the positioning of the child, know if you have placenta previa, or if you're likely to have an abruptio and all that, which will lead to hemorrhage, which could lead, or most times leads to hemorrhage. And if that happens, because you're already susceptible, you can come down with the symptoms of sickle cell disease. You understand? And also, there is possibility that when you lose a lot of blood, you can have organ damage, because when there is blood loss, hypovolemia, the blood will not be enough to supply these organs, and they shut down. You understand? So it's not really risk that is worth taking, but if you believe in it, well, I tell you to have a rethink. Have a rethink. Patronize, if at worst, go to the primary health care centers. At least you are getting the basic orthodox, management while you are giving birth, so that if anything happens, you can easily be referred to the secondary level of healthcare.
There are a lot of I don't want to use the word sicklers. There are a lot of people that are sickle cell patients around us, and some of them may just, their crisis can be triggered while they are away from their primary caregivers. You understand? And for Nigerians that, we like when things are happening, we bring out our phones and start recording. If we see such persons, okay, probably somebody is under a crisis, what first aid things do you think that people around can do to at least stabilize that person?
If someone comes down with sickle cell is not something that is often acute.
Okay.
You understand? It starts gradually. The only acute thing that sickle cell people often suffer is the acute chest syndrome, and can be triggered with by a lot of things, maybe blood clots, you understand, embolism, or can be triggered by exposure to cold, you understand, and all that. So in that case, it's often an immediate hospitalization case. The issue of Nigerians having this I'll call it clout chase, everybody let it be that I'm the one that videoed it and all that, I think is something we should really work on, because a lot of people that could have been saved have lost their life. If you see someone who is in distress, if you see someone who falls down, and gasping for air, we should try as much as possible not to encircle this person, so that can be able to get enough aeration and aspire. You understand? That's number one. Number two, if there is any hospital around, kindly move the person immediately to hospital, instead of trying to snap and taking time. 1 minute, 2 minutes is enough to save lives, instead of snapping pictures.
Honestly, it is. So genotype and compatibility, what, if you're to put it in one compound sentence, what would you say?
If you're talking about spousal compatibility, before you start checking, is she tall, short, fat, has behind, and all what physical traits that may interest you? Or is he tall, six packs, is the phallus the size that you want, and all that? I think genotyping should be prioritized. When you prioritize that, you can now get down to all those physical assessments. Why I say that is, when you go down, once you certify all those physical assessments, the emotional attachment, the feeling that we call love, tends to becloud our reasoning. You understand? So when you're now talking about genotyping, your genotype does not match, it enters through one ear and is going out through one ear, maybe because he's giving you where you want it, or she's giving you how you want it. And then once those attachments are there, it's not often easy to detach. So if genotype is prioritized, that you see someone and you think, I would like to settle down with this person, the first thing you should do is to go for your blood grouping. Matching.
See, that, okay, a lot of Nigerians, a lot of young adults do not actually know their genotype. They don't know. Once you give them form, okay, fill it. Genotype. How many genotype are there? Okay, let me just put let me just put AS. You understand? There are a lot of young Nigerians that have not actually gone to the lab, have their body pierced, taking blood samples and tested properly. What is your advice to those group of people?
My advice is that we should try, not just because of the sickle cell issue. It is important for you to know your blood group, your genotype, in cases of emergency. Most times, if you see a properly made ID card, it has room for your blood grouping. You understand? Why? Is because if there is a case of emergency, accident, road traffic accident, or whatsoever, that you need to be transfused, your ID can give an insight into what blood you can be transfused immediately. Because grouping and cross matching at that time might not be really obtainable because of the time frame that you really needed to be transfused immediately. So it is important that your genotype, you know it. You understand? This is the primary reason. Then, for the purpose of humanity, because I call this a sickle cell campaign against sickle cell, a humanity fight, is that I see it that if we take it serious, maybe in the next century, we may not be having SS. We may not totally eradicate AS, but we may not be having SS because naturally the law of selection is happening. The weak, that is the strong, survives. And apart from that, the law of nature, as we are giving birth, the older ones are dying. In the next 50, 60 years, most people of our age are not going to be here.
Of course.
You understand? So if this campaign is taken seriously, over time, we're not going to have people who are SS. And if the campaign is continued into the future, when you and I are not even going to be there, you will see over time we may not even have ES. You understand? So it has to be a long-term plan, a deliberate effort for us to save humanity, because the pain and the cost of managing these people, is it the being on drug, the hydroxyurea? Is it constantly being conscious of your exposing self, not to expose yourself to cold? You don't want to exert yourself. It's not what every other person is doing that you will do, because you don't want to come down, with crisis. You see that these people are not living optimal life. So why should we give birth to children who will not live life optimally? It's not fair.
It's actually not fair. It's not fair. There is this group I follow on Facebook, Sickle Cell Warriors, and you see them posting cases of treating people, not really treatment, but blood transfusions, and you see all those machines that they use for the blood transfusion, and you just know that me, I have a very low threshold of pain. So when people even if you're just describing pain, I start thinking, I start getting afraid, you understand? So I now imagine what those children, sometimes you see them 8 years old, 10 years old, 15 years, what they actually go through. Was that blood transfusion, is it not sustainable? Is it not a sustainable treatment?
How do you mean?
The blood transfusion, does it not last for a long time?
Well, when you transfuse a sickle cell patient, what you're doing is that you are infusing the system with blood rich in normal hemoglobin molecules, because from the person who is the donor, the person has a good blood hemoglobin molecules. So you are trying to enrich the blood of the sickler. You understand? The sickle cell patient. So it's going to last, but remember, like I said, the bone marrow produces the red blood cells. That's the pluripotent stem cell. You understand? So eventually it's going to overrun the transfused blood. So it's just like buying time. It's just like buying time. It will buy you time for some time. Yes, it will help you oxygenate, because you now have more normal hemoglobin molecules in the system at the time. So your saturation will be higher and every other thing. But after some time, you're back to square one.
Wow. You scientists,
and the cycle continues.
You scientists, you're always inventing, innovating. Is there no time in the near future that we would see a cost-efficient, lasting solution, treatment, or whatever to the sickle cell disease? Is there no time?
Well, as far as my knowledge permits me, sickle cell disease is a genetic factor.
Okay.
You understand? It's the genetic factor. It's not an infection that you can take to lab and try to culture and try to understand and try to see what is sensitive to. This is genetic.
Okay.
And when something is genetic, it's genetic. So the only thing is like the IVF pre-selection. And like every invention, it comes with cost implication. It took money, time, energy for people who studied and invented the process of in vitro fertilization to come up with that, studied it and started applying it in our conception or reproductive process. Now you don't expect it to come at a giveaway price, so it's not going to be a free for all thing. If you want to explore that option, you must be ready with the heaviness of the pocket. In the future, why the campaign is ongoing is because we are looking for us to solve this problem with our milk of human kindness, by being sensitive, by being conscientious. This is about the third time I'm using the word conscientious. Put yourself in the shoes of this person's, this offspring, coming down with this pain, this painful condition, this disease, the sickle cell disease. What if you are? Did you imagine the pain a child felt that he called the mother and said, "Mommy, you are wicked. Why did you give birth to me?" It's such an extreme pain. It's only when you infuse yourself to be in these people's shoe that you know that love is not enough.
Yeah, love is not enough.
So love is not enough.
Love is not enough. Love is really not enough. Now, to the lady that sent in the story, she was already sounding like she's in despair. What message, what advice would you have for her?
Well, to the lady in the story, the advice I have for her is to not give up hope. That's number one. Number two, those she likes, like she said, not liking her, and those that like her, not she not liking them back. I think she should have a kind of reshuffling of priority. You understand? Is it you don't like them because of their height, or is it that you don't like them because of this? You know, what we like changes with time, and with age we tend to, change our priorities. She should try to ask herself what is more important. Maybe that will actually help her in making better decision about those she likes and those that are liking her, and can also help her to settle down, more easily.
And she desires marriage.
Yes.
Because going into it with somebody you say you love and the person has AS is not something.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. So my advice is she should look beyond what the physical eyes are seeing in those persons that are liking her. She should have her basic criteria. Once they meet her basic criteria, she should go for it. She should go for it. Genotype and compatibility. We've heard it all from the experts. Please, it is not necessary. It is not necessary to bring children into the world. To suffer, yes. When you know that you and your partner, you have the AS genotype. Thank you, Nurse Joy, for coming. Thank you for this incisive and immersive session. It's always an eye-opening session with you in the studio. Thank you very much. And I want the audience to please pay attention. Going to check your genotype in the hospital is not an expensive thing to do. It's not an expensive diagnosis. So there is no excuse you should not know your genotype. It's important that you know, so that you don't fall in love blindly. Love is blind, but like being said by my sister, the genotype is wild awake. Yeah. And the things that comes with wrong choices associated with, marrying, someone who is AS and your AS is something you will not wish for yourself. Yeah. So please go and check your genotype. It's very important. For those that give birth, this falls on parents now. For those that are the ones bringing children into this world. My mom, for instance, she did genotype for all of us while we are still, neonatals. Okay. So as we are growing up, we're already having our, we already know our genotype. Yeah. So the second option we are seeking is just for us to be sure. And I was given birth to in UNTH, and so were other members, my other siblings, and our genotype never changed. If we want to check, I advise we go to government accredited institutions. It is very important. We also have good private diagnostic centers we can go. Avoid the mushroom centers that you go and you get AA today and tomorrow you are getting AS. Go to places that when your result comes out, you can be sure that what you get is what you have. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Nurse Joy. Thank you so much for educating Nigerians this afternoon. Thank you so much for every knowledge that you've poured out there. And I am very, very sure that some of them will have questions. They can put it in the comments, write your questions in the comments, and we will answer to the best of our abilities and to the best that time to the best that time can take. So thank you for watching the Humans of Abuja podcast today. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to share, and don't also forget to send in your stories, and we will dissect it anonymously on this page. So until next time, it is goodbye from me and goodbye from Nurse Joy. Thank you. Bye-bye.